Hi, welcome to The Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is a wonderful adventure and each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germain, and this show, 2022, where are we going now? And I'm so honored and delighted to have with me Agneta Borstein, friend extraordinaire, astrologer, shamanic teacher, author, a shamanic practitioner, author. The list of her gifts and talents are incredibly long. And Agneta, thank you so much for your willingness to be my first guest in 2022. And I follow you on Facebook, and you are always sharing such deep knowledge and wisdom about astrology. I had to start my year off with you, and I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you have something special planned.
Okay, then I thank you very much and happy 2022.
Thank you. And to
Basically,
you.
we live in an interesting time and it's so good. And so thank you for allowing me to share this kind of little complex times that we live in, as we are all aware of. But I always try to do it in the depth. Thank you for your notes, because there's two sides to each coin. I always try to be positive in challenging times as well. So how I would like to do this, I have prepared a PowerPoint and kind of simplified to the way I see astrology. That is, if some of you don't know me, I still have my accent, which is Swedish, but I'm not going to talk Swedish. I'm not going to talk just astrology. We're going to make it simplified and have faith. So I'm going to start with this PowerPoint that I have prepared, and we go from there. Okay. 2022. Now, where are we going? I am Agneta Borstein. Thank you, Joyce. I am an astrologer and all that shamanic practitioner, author, workshop, and teacher. So we are now the first days of 2022, but we have to go back a little bit back into already 2019. I have written about 2020. I was concerned about 2020. I think not just me, most astrologers. Because when we see cycles, and I shared this knowledge in the 2019, and people were, whoa, is it going to be a war? Oh no, the reminder there's two sides to each coin. So we try to take it in a positive way. It's not only the COVID, but we do have some strong transits, even though 2022 is changing slowly but surely. So when we look at 2019 and we go through some more cycles, because we have different ways of looking at the current situation, not just America. We will go through the America's chart just a little bit, but we're looking at planetary picture throughout the globe. It's not just America, even though America is a very strong and powerful country. So when we take the beginning of 2020, whoa, that was strong. And we will talk about how we saw that, or how we still see it actually. But these two planets came together with the hope of, is it ever going to be over, this COVID? Will we be able to have more faith in the future? This is part of a cycle of 20 years. So in the beginning, Saturn and Jupiter met, and they were still in 2021 quite active. So we have some basic fundamental education, observation, and acceptance of cycles. There are always two sides to the coin. So I try to be, as I mentioned, there is the negative, but there's also the positive in any type of situation. So Saturn will be coming back over and over during this segment, because we will talk about how strong he is for both 2020, 2021, 2022, and he will leave us in 2023. So I will talk about the basic part of that soon. And the hope, when we looked at the sky, now we have all been inside for a year in 2020, and Jupiter is our largest planet. And when they meet, it's like a strong meeting, which calls a conjunction. They're on top of each other. So in the evening of December 21 or throughout the sky, they are still actually observant. If you mind looking up at the southeast, they're still traveling together because they are strong and they're very contradicting in their personalities, because Jupiter is a 12-year cycle and Saturn is a 30-year cycle. So when we then go further into say how zodiac signs does matter, but if we understand the basic nature of a planet, we have Jupiter as the biggest god and he's loud. And so when we look at beneficial part and challenging part, it might depend on how you live your life, your political view, which, by the way, I am neutral, Swedish neutral, even though I'm not that neutral, but it took me a while to become an American citizen. So we have the challenges. The good part about there is a lot of personal growth. There is the abundance of how we can grow during challenging times. Jupiter is the teacher and the guru, and that's like part of learning inside of yourself as well as paying attention to what's going on around you. Jupiter has generosity within him. He is a good guy. He might not be my favorite planet because there is a conniver in him. When Jupiter goes on the big part, we might do overspending, overeating. He's fanatical, narcissistic, and sometimes dishonest. So this whole shift of Jupiter, he stays in one sign for a year, and we will talk about where he's going to be in 2022. So the basic foundation of Saturn is very important to just see how he goes. Discipline, he is on time. He's our foundation. He's the bones, the structure, even down to our teeth. So he rules walls because there is the foundation. And in any type of situation, in your bones, in your teeth, how you raise up your shoulder, you continue doing your daily walk, exercise, yoga, and all that other things that comes in with working with Saturn. He might not be the most popular planet in our astrological language, but when you listen to Saturn, he might control, but if we are listening to him, we all have a time to learn, and that has been very strong all the way from 2020 and will continue to 2023. So we need to be friends with Saturn. He is the boundary, the spirit of life coming in to do what we have to do. He does rule depression, so melancholy, serious stuff going on. So he rules the government. So patience is about patience. Are you controlled by the government or not? Or do you control yourself? He does rules, as we say before, with walls. You protect yourself, you stay home. And it seems like whatever we try, the walls sometimes crumble during Saturn cycles, which happens to be every 7 years. So you can also do too much. It becomes in to be a workaholic, doing too much all the time. But at the end of the day, Saturn gives you success and achievements. The other planet that we have to consider in this short session, there are more planets involved, but let's save it just because Uranus stays in one sign for 7-8 years. And he's like an explosion. He does rule revolution, the freedom, and the way of saying, are you politically active? Good for you. We can still do many things for Uranus, as for example, Joyce might be Uranian, astrology Uranus, I might be Uranian, but I'm free because I take Saturn into my daily life. Maybe I love my life. So Uranus and Saturn are now in 2021. We will talk about that, but they still kind of are together in 2022. And I will give you some more suggestion or clarification about that. So Uranus, when we look at the positive ways of saying, I'm sorry, not in the challenging way of Uranus sometimes is uncertain, explosion, fire, anything can happen. So in this plate that I have here, any certainty is uncertain, meaning that be your own self. If you are Uranian and put Saturn together, then make your own decision. It's not just about the vaccination and all the mask, the vaccine, the booster. We're not going to talk about only the COVID challenge. Of course, we have to, but it brings up more because Saturn and Uranus, they're very different in personality. They come together to be together. For us to choose, can I be both? I choose that. I do what I have to do, but I'm free enough to be free to do what I have to do. Perhaps is neutral, doesn't work, but in the way of the challenge of Uranus, is science a challenge or benefit? I believe in science, but many people don't. And science is interesting as eventually when we know science, it becomes more metaphysical. We trust it and we have kind of both feet, both mind in the earth. We're still here and we should be so thankful. The other ones that I thought is important, Pluto, and I won't go through all our planets that might be involved in 2022 and up to 2026, but faith, I will explain that. So you have Pluto as always rebirth, cleansing, it moves oil. Pluto was discovered in 1930, so we have this shift in how we let go. So it's an empowerment planet, little one, but very important at this time. So evolution, and Uranus is revolution. Which one is it? It's also that part of the division that might go on, not just in America, the world, the globe. But the challenge with Pluto is more about, it does give us birth and death, and we have to live as much as we can in between. He does rule corruption, secrets, manipulation, and misuse of power. And depending on what TV channel or what newspaper you read, you trust your own judgment for where you stand. That is that inner power that we have the right to do. And especially with, I like to say, especially with what Joyce does and other alternative healer, the massage, the healing, the yoga, all of that is alternative. We become practical and the survival instinct becomes stronger, for sure. This is a plate that I have had for quite a while, and this is why I appreciate Joyce inviting me, because is it over in 2022? What? Not just the COVID, because that affects the economy. Can we travel? I love to travel. I am a traveler. So where do we start? We start out in 2019 that I did a lecture and it was like, whoa, we were concerned about 2020 because that's when it all started. When Saturn, bones, the structure, comes into Capricorn, he loves to be in Capricorn. He wants to be in Capricorn, even though technically there's also old rulers and modern rulers. But when Saturn comes together with both Saturn in its own sign, with Jupiter in Capricorn, and they conjunct each other. And there's other things during 2020 that we were quite concerned about. So we dealt with 2020. I'm sure we still remember how we had to be home, no travel restrictions, and all that. Jupiter loves to travel. He is the traveler. Now 2021 has just passed. There were 3 dates that I'm like, okay, maybe by summer of 2021, this whole situation could kind of calm down. So we had Saturn in Aquarius moving away from Capricorn as he was on that date that I showed you at the end of 2020. So they overlap actually. But in 2021, everybody's trying to figure out what side are you on. Are you Saturnian or you Uranian, or are you both? Saves your life. So Saturn, when they came together in a strong square, which the dates were February 17th, June 30th, and December 24th. I am not surprised over this fast Uranus last, hopefully, variant of the COVID, which is then the Omicron. But I was not surprised because sometimes, and I don't know how many times I have said, Saturn is the wall. He had to hit this wall of his meeting of Uranus, and Uranus goes, I show you who is in charge. I think Joyce might agree, this little COVID has its own little spirit and it has to fly all over the world, which we just want to take it away. And in 2022, these two planets are not totally leaving each other, but they're not on like this square, the challenge, but we have to respect it. There's other things to come with eclipses and so forth, which is not difficult, but the 2022 is to comply. But I believe that I know it's not going to be as intense as 2021, 2020, 21, because they are trying to separate and they're sorted out. So April of 2022 could be concerning, but more concerning is still fall of 2022, as in September and October. Therefore, when we are too free with Uranus, Saturn might catch us. So it's about living our life accordingly and trust that things are getting better. It doesn't seem so at the moment, but I have faith in that way to say the exquisite cycles of the planets. 2023, because we're looking at the outer planets, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Saturn, Jupiter is like faster. So we're looking at this huge picture that I had worked since 2013. We need to know that the Pluto, that little guy, birth and death stuff, he leaves Capricorn and he moves into finally Aquarius. And those kind of like new age Aquarian stuff. Yeah, it's real, 2025. And so he leaves this planet that he wants to be, and he goes into Aquarius in January Pluto, 2024. Pluto goes out of Capricorn, has taught us a lot since 2018 about birth and death and survival and cleansing. So then that's part of, he's stays in one sign, average 21 years. So he's very unpredictable, but strong when he shows up. In the 2025, there's also an important part of, we're not going to sit around and roll our thumbs, but we're going to decide, do we go Saturn and Uranus and follow science, or do you follow your cautiousness? Up to you, free choice. So that when we look at the 2025, I was not going to go into all the other planets, but there is Neptune enters Aries, and Neptune is the water. He does not only rule the water, he is the water, and anything you can volunteer or support through. I usually have, but because of the time, but you can support Neptune in itself, cleaning the water, cleaning all your emotions, letting go. And that's also Pluto. So there's a lot of opportunities to stay on the right side of the road and on your path. So we're not going to, again, roll our thumbs up to all the way to 2026. That's when Uranus, that now is in Taurus, Earth, enters Gemini. And then Saturn is still, playing his tricks, if you will, and always does. So that if we take 2022 as being patient and continue being educated for your own security, then there is also that which comes in for realistic part of not thinking that this COVID and our challenges are going to be until 2026 and beyond. My favorite topics in lectures and workshops, how loud will the gods speak? They're pretty loud right now and has been for the last year. But it's also kind of interesting times that we live in. We have more to do within our own selves. So Pluto, this is for the American audience, which is the local community worldwide. Your Joyce's show goes worldwide, but it's a very important time in the history of America, because that little guy Pluto, he rules the underworld. He's like the whole deception of secrets and corruptions. So he forces Persephone, the maiden, they travel in the underworld. But when we see this image, how much there is to achieve, how many even do their little garden in their backyard, and now we have food or not, the whole shift is the world. And so when we look at this picture, when Pluto and Persephone goes down underground, they do take their little chicken with them. They take their weeds with them. They teach themselves how to survive. And Earth, Uranus in Earth, we have new ways of not only agriculture, because every springtime, Persephone is allowed to come up and meet her mother. So there's the hope. We are learning new ways of living. We are more into organic foods, alternative, so that we can have faith in a new big change, which is very positive, because what did I write recently? Changes hurt, but the rewards are plentiful, because there is that necessary times and we don't ask for it, but we are asking you, or the sky is asking you, to follow your own path, because there is that, I would like to say that it's not a positive situation that has occurred, but it's the strongest one that we have had for a very long time. So there is, of course, we survive, and perhaps the smart or the strong one will survive. This I wanted to show you because Pluto then, each has its own cycle. Pluto, because it has a very erratic phase, has now, as we speak, February 20th, 2022, Pluto comes back to what July 4th, 1776. This inner circle is the natal chart of the United States of America. Now, of course, in the astrological world, we have contradiction of like, oh no, I want to use this other Sagittarius.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models, from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.